Hey, my name is Jason with Spirit. I'm here with Dallas Jenkins. He is a part of 5 and 2 Studios, creator, director of Chosen and the best Christmas pageant ever, which you remember we premiered last year in Tulare with awesome movie.
Oh, cool, thank you.
Huge turnout for that. Let's talk about Chosen.
Yeah.
So with Chosen, you started how many years ago working on Chosen?
Back in 2017, I was coming off of a big career failure and did a little short film for my church's Christmas Eve service about the birth of Christ.
Okay.
And then that ultimately went viral and led to this show that now season 5 is coming out to theaters next month. It's been a crazy ride.
Now, creating, writing in your family isn't a new thing. I hear your father was the author of Left Behind.
Yes.
So
Storytelling is in my blood for sure.
Okay, so confession time. How many books of Left Behind did you actually read?
That's a good question. I would say I actually read about 8 of them.
Okay.
It turned out to be 16.
16,
yeah. Was a little much. At some point I go, okay, I got it. They were left behind. Let's keep moving.
I got to 6, so you did better than I did.
Yeah. I got to 8.
That's awesome. Now, when I looked you up on the other truth-telling of the world, Wikipedia, right?
Yes, of course. I'm sure everything you saw was accurate.
Notable work said Resurrection of Gavin Stone, which is what you were alluding to.
Yeah, that's the movie that didn't do well at the box office.
But if I remember right, Gavin Stone actually was notable because it led to Chosen.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about that story?
Well, when that movie was released in theaters all over the country, I was very optimistic. Everyone was optimistic, and then it completely bombed. And all the companies that had been wanting to work with me for future projects pulled out, and so I was left with nothing. I was a director with a bright future, and now I'm a director with a no future. And I was willing, ultimately, that's what changed my life was I really gave it over to God. And I said, okay, it's not my job to feed the 5,000. It's my job to provide loaves and fish. So when the results aren't there, I'm just going to keep focused on the best loaves and fish that I can. And I don't know what that is, but I'm willing to do it. And that turned into that little short film that I did for my church, which then turned into The Chosen.
So out of that was also a moment where your wife received a word, and somebody on Facebook sent you the same exact word at the time, which is where 5 and 2 Studios came from.
Yeah, because God had been putting her into the feeding of the 5,000 story. When you're crying out to God and you're like, all right, I've failed. What do you have for me in this? Why did you call me to this only to bring me to failure? And so he really put on Amanda's heart, read the story of the feeding of the 5,000. So we're reading that story and we're seeing that Jesus let them get hungry. He, in fact, it was his fault. He brought them to that desperation. He's the one who'd been talking for 3 days, getting them hungry, where the only solution was a miracle. And so for us, that level of hunger that we were at didn't necessarily mean that God wasn't in it.
Yeah. So this posture of surrender really came out of that moment.
Yes.
And you've carried that through by maintaining control of Chosen.
Yeah.
But also this posture of surrender has been the theme, I would say, throughout Chosen.
Yeah.
So how has that, even in your own life, been able to be lived out?
Well, because we get to a place where even when, no matter how successful the show gets, it's never comfortable. It's not like some big studio's writing us a check for $1 billion. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
We still have to, even now, I'm about to do season 6. I have to cut some things from the scripts so that we can afford to do a full season.
Yeah.
So it never gets easy. But I think God wants us in that place of surrender. My wife calls it the manna program, where every morning you come out with your hands outstretched for your daily manna. And God said, if you save it up and store it, I'll make it rot. He wanted us to be dependent on him each day.
So when we look at season 5 coming up, what should we expect?
It's Holy Week. Season 5 covers the most influential, impactful, important week in the history of the world. And there's a lot going on. You've got some of the greatest hits of the Gospels, the triumphal entry, the Judas's betrayal, the Last Supper, the turning over the tables in the temple. All of these things happen in 1 week. We've got all the enemies of Jesus and the friends of Jesus all gathered together. It's a powder keg. So this is the most exciting, bittersweet, heartbreaking, but also at times joyous season we've done.
So now you're also starting the filming of season 6, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the crucifixion season.
How have you entered into that season, being that it's the crucifixion season?
Well, a lot of work, a lot of prayer. I'll say even from season 1, we've wanted to get this right. So it's not like it's any more pressure now, but you know that the whole world is watching at this point. You just want to remember, all right, I want to honor God and the character and intentions of Jesus in the Gospels. I want to interpret what he did for us as accurately as I possibly can as a human being to bring this to the world. And so there's a lot riding on this season for sure.
So how have you been able to maintain that humility through all of this? Right now you have this all around you, swirling. Your
well, it's actually easy. First of all, I have a wife who keeps me humble for sure. And
we
kids.
love our wives.
Yes, but she knows who I was before this show and how that I cared about legitimacy and affirmation. And I wanted to be honored and I wanted to win awards, and then all that was taken away from me. I stopped caring about it. She's still checking in to make sure that I'm still there. Now that the show is monumentally popular, on one hand, you could think that would be more difficult. On the other hand, it's so successful now. It's like, oh, well, that's easy to not take credit for. I'm not that good.
Right.
I'm not this good to have it be translated into 125 languages. Have people in every country in the world
amazing.
watching it. It's easy to remain humble.
Yeah.
Considering how big it's gotten.
So out of The Chosen, you have a couple other works that you're also working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we're developing a limited series on the life of Joseph.
Okay.
From the Old Testament. After The Chosen's done, I want to take us some time to nap, but then I want to do Moses.
Okay.
And we're also developing The Chosen Adventures, which is an animated series based on The Chosen. So that's coming out this year as well.
So I know in the midst of all your work, your family, you do love sports.
Oh, yes.
So favorite sports team, favorite sport, what is it?
The Cubs are where the Chicago Cubs are where it begins and ends for me.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm a huge Chicago and Illinois sports. Illinois basketball, huge.
Okay.
The Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks,
Okay.
all that. So I'm an Illinois boy.
I'm an LA kid, so I'm gonna pray for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, good luck with all the money you're spending.
Right, yeah.
For the Dodgers, like, wow, so challenging.
My friend called it the budget of God. So
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
It seems like it.
I'm learning God's not a Cubs fan.
Yeah. Well, Dallas, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you. We're praying for you, cheering
you.
you on.
Thank you.
Thank you.